As the Winter Olympics got underway in Beijing, President Putin of Russia was the star guest, meeting President Xi Jinping before the official opening. China and Russia announced a new partnership, with China saying it'll back Russia's foreign policy aims and saying it supports Russian demands that NATO halt its expansion. That is seen as an implicit reference to the situation in Ukraine. Mr. Putin hailed the agreement as an unprecedented pact of cooperation. President Xi and Vladimir Putin held their talks hours before the opening of the Games, which had a relatively low-key ceremony amid concerns about COVID and a diplomatic boycott over human rights abuses.
Is Macron's grand plan here to somehow single-handedly negotiate some kind of deal to stop this much-feared invasion of Ukraine?
I think that is the ultimate aim of the French president. Whether or not he manages to actually secure that deal remains to be seen, but I think he's determined to do as much as he possibly can. Remember, earlier this week, he spent an hour on the phone with the US President Joe Biden. That was on Wednesday, talking about how the United States and Europe could organize possible sanctions against Russia if it were to invade Ukraine.
First thing you'll see is in that space between the Marine's antenna and his chest, you'll see an individual dressed in all black, where the cursor is circling right now. The blast seems to emanate from this individual. Based upon our investigation at the tactical level, this was not preventable, and the leaders on the ground followed the proper measures.
The investigation found that a single explosive device killed at least 170 Afghan civilians and 13 U.S. service members by explosively directing ball bearings through a packed crowd and into our men and women at Abbey Gate. The investigation found no definitive proof that anyone was ever hit or killed by gunfire, either U.S. or Afghan.
There are gusts of wind for the moment, but not really heavy. There is a bit of rain, but it's still quite calm. But the most impressive is the ocean. The waves are really intense, very powerful. So this is the most impressive thing for the moment. What the authorities have done is doing preventive evacuations, especially of the populations who are in danger, who live close to the ocean, especially in wood houses. So 1,460 people have been evacuated in accommodation sites in town.
Je dirais déjà c'est un soulagement que le navire, c'est un pétrolier quand même, hein, donc qu'il soit vide, qu'il n'y ait pas de pollution, enfin très peu de pollution on espère.
Ndo took to the stand to plead that he be released on bail. The professional nurse employed in the ICU section of the Mahikeng Provincial Hospital stated that he needed to go back to work. Ndo also told court that he had property valued at over 2 million rand, which he could lose if he remained incarcerated. After Ndo's testimony, the investigating officer testified to oppose bail. She disputed claims that Ndo handed himself over to police and stated that he went to the Thohoyandou police station to report that a family member had attempted to dispossess him of his firearm. She added that Ndo informed officers that he had fired shots at random after managing to repossess his firearm.
They came in their thousands to the national capital, marching on Old Parliament House. And then the new. They come from across Australia, from all walks of life, men and women, from the left and right of politics, from First Australians,
from my people, my culture,
through families, to extremists like the neo-fascist Proud Boys, the only ones in the crowd wearing masks. They have an array of grievances, from vaccine mandates to conspiracy theories. One thing unites them: their hatred of politicians and a media they say lies to them.
The protest against the Canadian government's mandate of COVID-19 vaccine by the truckers has now spilled nationwide. Days after protesters demanding a rollback on the mandate for COVID-19 vaccine and other COVID-19 related guidelines gathered in the capital city of Ottawa, prompting Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his family to shift to a secure location, the protest now rolls into the city of Quebec. The protest, which is called the Freedom Convoy, can witness opposition from the authorities if protesters resort to violence during the protest. Citing his administration's stance on the protest rally, Quebec's Premier François Legault made it clear that mayhem of any kind would not be tolerated